This is Pain to Purpose Live, and I'm Donnie Thomas. And in this space, we have real conversations about the challenges we face and how to transform them into growth. We explore purpose, build resilience, and develop confidence. This is a safe space for constructive and respectful engagement where all perspectives are welcomed, as long as they're rooted in love. So, subscribe to be part of this movement and join me live to engage with the community. Peace. Welcome. This is Pain to Purpose Live. This is our first episode. So give me 1 second. I want to turn my monitor down a little bit. Give me a thumbs up online if you can hear me. Give me something, a yes in the chat if the sound is coming through okay. Is everybody able to hear me well out there? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a yes. Give me something. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So welcome to Pain to Purpose Live. Purpose is a very near and dear topic for me. This is our first episode. And so I want to reiterate that this is a space for personal development and transformation where we're looking at creative purpose, resilience, and confidence and how we can use those things to transform our lives, both in work and our personal spaces. But before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about me. I began to be really interested in the topic of purpose when I was in my mid-20s. I had a very interesting situation where I was almost robbed. And after that life-changing experience, I thought a lot about purpose and what I am here to create in the world. And after a lot of prayer and meditation, I was given the what, and I had to figure out the how. And I realized that many people, very similar to the gentleman that chose to attempt to rob me that day, are struggling with their why. They're struggling with how they can create the life that they want to create for themselves. So that's what this space is all about, helping people who are struggling with their creative purpose, their resilience, and their confidence in creating the life that they want, helping people who need to re-explore and re-examine those things so that they can get back to or continue to develop the best version of themselves. Purpose, again, was near and dear to me in my mid-20s, and it led me to find out that one of my main goals and my main purpose is to help as many people as I can with the gifts that God gave me. It led me to help families as a housing provider, to write the book, What They Don't Teach You in School, to become the founder of 2 companies that help people to become the best versions of themselves. And ultimately, where we are today here at Pain to Purpose Live and working on this project to help others to continue to develop themselves. And so the topic for today is powering your creativity with purpose. So why is this important? This is important because we're wrapping up 2025. We're wrapping up the end of the year. And it's really time for us to start thinking about purpose, what's next, and how to keep that creative inspiration and to keep that fuel ignited as we move into the next year. So I want you to drop a yes in the chat if you feel like you could use some personal power, if you have ever been stuck and you feel like you've needed a charge to get back to your why. I want you to put a yes in the chat. Please, for me. Thank you. And please engage with one another while you're on the chat. I want this to be a very collaborative session. So if folks raise something in the chat, I want you to comment or to ask questions. And as you're raising these questions or making these points, I'll try to get to everything in the chat as quickly as I can. But the key takeaway before I get started is, that we're all led by purpose, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. And, we need to choose how we access that purpose. You get to choose how you access that purpose. So what is creative purpose? Well, first we got to start by talking about what is creation. And in a quote that I love from one of my favorite books, Seed of the Soul by Mark Zukov, he says that a thought is energy that has been shaped by consciousness. No form exists without consciousness. There is energy and there is shaping of energy by consciousness. This is creation. And I love that quote because it starts with the thought. Creation starts in your mind. And so the question I want to pose to you all in the chat is, when you hear the word creative, what comes to mind for you? Is it art? Is it innovation? Is it problem solving? Put some things in the chat that really speak to you when you hear the word creation. And I'm going to put the question up now. And if you're saying art, many people often think about the artists. Many people often think about the the people who are doing all the fun and cool things. They're painters, they are musicians, but it doesn't matter what your profession is. It doesn't matter if you're not even speaking about your professional life. You are always creating. You are creating relationships with your family, your friends. You are creating the body that you want and choose to live in. You are creating the emotions that you generate in your body. And so your creativity isn't just one thing. And so as you're looking and thinking about creativity, I want you to just type in the chat your perception of create, what it means to be creative. And a fun fact, as you're thinking about that, 96% of business leaders say creative ideas are essential to their organization's long-term success. 96%. And so if this is good enough for businesses, it's definitely good enough for you in your personal life to really dig into and to think about your creativity and what it means to be creative. And so, under this topic of what is creative purpose, we then move on to what is purpose. What is purpose? Purpose is the meaning that you give to your work and your life. And for me, as I alluded to earlier, my purpose is to help as many people as I can with the gifts that God has given me. And for everybody, that's going to be different. Our gifts show up differently for everybody. But it's our job to really explore that and examine that within ourselves. And so I'll ask and pose this question for those in the chat. You know, when you hear the word purpose, what do you think about first? Do you think about goal? Do you think about reason? What's the one word that pops into your mind when you think about purpose? And I'll put the new journey. Okay. I like that word. All right, journey. So it's definitely a journey. This life, I think we got to get a little bit more comfortable with experimenting with life. We have this notion that some mystical being is going to come to us and grant us our purpose. But as I alluded to earlier, as I mentioned earlier, purpose is the meaning that you give to your work and to your life. For me, I did do a lot of prayer and meditation, and I did receive a download of what my general purpose in this life is, which is to help as many people as I can with the gifts that God has given me. But I still have to and still had to do the work in order to figure out the how. And that's where I come in. That's where you come in, where you figure out what meaning you want to prescribe to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in your life. See what I should be doing. Yes. Purpose is absolutely what you should be doing. And I would even venture to say that, beyond what you should be doing, how you should be being, because we forget our being in the doing and forget that we have to feel our way sometimes towards our purpose, what feels right for us. And so as I am combining the definitions that we talked about, creativity and or creative and purpose, when we get to the definition of creative purpose, it is the meaning that you give to the unique way that you use your gifts to bring your thoughts into form. The unique meaning that you give to the unique way that you use your gifts to bring your thoughts into form. As I mentioned earlier, our creativity starts with thought. And as we're attempting to bring our thought into form, it's incumbent upon us to really sit back and think about our intention and what we're trying to accomplish. And so, for this session today, one thing that I'll task you with is to take a minute to think about what your intention is while you are here. I want you to set an intention honestly within yourself and type it in the chat. And the key question here is, what do you intend to gain from being here? And what do you intend to contribute? You see, when you set an intention, it's wrapped in your emotion, and it's a powerful thing, because when you wrap your intention in your emotion, that's what gives you the traction that you need in order to accomplish the goal. So if you want to, if you feel open to it, I invite you, please, write your intentions in the chat so that others can be inspired and can think through what they might want their intention to be. The next thing I'll ask you to do is to set your attention to your intention, because a lot of times when we're focusing on the wrong things, we miss our ability to achieve or to actually realize the intention that we mean out of a situation or by doing something. There was a video I was watching by, I think it was Tony Robbins, and he was on a podcast talking to the gentleman, and he said, "All right, look around the room and take an inventory of everything and tell me everything that is," I forget the color, but let's say green. So the guy looked around the room, and then, after that, he says, "All right, close your eyes. Now tell me everything that was blue." And the guy had a really tough time telling him everything that was the other color, because all he was doing was focusing on the initial color. And so it's when you don't have your attention focused on something, sometimes you're focusing on the wrong thing. And so I want you to align your intention with your attention so that you can get out of today's talk what you want to get out of it for yourself. And the last piece before we move on really is, what tangible outcome do you want from this talk around creative purpose? For example, you might have an intention to learn about creative purpose, and the outcome that you want is maybe to learn one new strategy that you can apply in your personal life or in your work. You see, the outcome is time bound, so you want to learn something in one strategy in this session that you can apply to your work and or life. And so I want you to take your intention, tie it to an outcome that you want for yourself, and focus your attention on getting that outcome as you're listening. So the one thing I want you to take away before we move on is, when you align your intention and your attention, you'll start to focus on the tangible outcomes that you want to create in order to create the life that you want for yourself. So what is this connection between pain and creativity? It's interesting because even, yesterday I had a challenging situation in dealing with some colleagues in a situation where I was feeling like there was dissonance within myself because I felt like I was communicating clearly. I felt like, we were meeting incessantly about a particular topic that I had explained, and we were continuing to go around and around and around. And I was like, I don't want to meet anymore. I don't want to meet anymore. Everything is already laid out, and we tended to talk past one another. And it was from that situation that when the dissonance started to grow within me around the situation, I had to take inventory. I had to talk to people who I trusted, who understand what I am creating and what I am building. So as I'm working with colleagues and as I am working with clients and things of that nature, they understand how to reel me back in and how to keep me fixed and focused on the intentions that I have for my life and from the relationships that I choose to have, because I choose to have positive intentions around those relationships. And the key thing that jumped out for me in that is that, creativity often emerges from struggle, from challenge, because it's in those challenging moments where you are forced to be resourceful. Have you ever encountered a situation where you might have lost it all, thought you had gained everything and then lost it all? It was that struggle that caused you to be resourceful, caused you to be able to create something out of nothing. You didn't need hundreds of thousands and millions and trillions of dollars. You hear stories all the time about people who fell to rock bottom and then created multi-million dollar, billion dollar companies because they were forced to be resourceful as a result of that struggle. And so creativity, I understand, comes oftentimes when we experience struggle. But we have to really understand the meaning behind that struggle in order to understand the connection between pain and creativity. For example, solving problems that are expressed by our communities, right? They lead businesses to create products and services that actually help people to improve their lives. Those same problems or similar problems that might be expressed by communities cause government officials to run for public office and to strive to implement laws that change people's lives. Those struggles are causing people to be resourceful and forcing people to exercise their creativity, their thought, and their unique gifts come together to solve that problem in order to manifest what they want to see. And even people, when people express problems in our communities, people go to work at organizations to solve problems that are important for other people. And so part of your process and part of your purpose might be in helping someone to solve a problem that you align with. And so there are so many different ways that this concept of pain ties to creativity. And so as you're listening to the sound of my voice, I want you to think about this question. I want you to think of it. Well, first, I want you to think of a moment that tested you recently. I'm sure you have one, because I have several moments that have tested me recently. A moment that has gotten into your spirit, and you might have had a negative emotion and you beat yourself up and you thought, why did I have that emotion? I wanted to be positive. Why can't I get myself out of this feeling? But I don't want you to beat yourself up about that feeling. I want you to ask yourself this question: how could you use that experience to build the reality that you want? You see, if the situation I was talking about, yesterday hadn't occurred, it wouldn't have further allowed me to refine what I needed to refine about myself. Because the next question after that is, what might that experience teach you about your gifts? You see, I appreciate the fact that my colleagues want me to be in a lot of the different meetings because my opinion is valued and respected. But I also understand that if I am going to provide the level of service that I need to provide, I have to figure out a way to establish my own boundaries in order to be as effective and helpful as I can to a larger pool of people. And so that helps you to sharpen yourself. And so if you feel free in the chat, please feel free to type in or give an example of something that might have tested you in your life, and how you really took that experience and thought about, how can this help me to create the life that I want? And if you're shy about that, I totally understand, because it is definitely difficult to share yourself, especially with strangers, when you're talking about those kinds of things. But the thing I want you to take away from this point is you choose how to use your pain. No one else can choose how you use your pain. You will still feel it, but you can't stay in it long. Pain is part of the human experience, but you choose how you use that pain. And if you use it as fuel for your purpose, that is how you continue to create the life that you want. But you don't ever focus your attention there, because your intention is to be focused on and focus your attention on what you want to create, which is not more pain. So, couple things. So, how do you reignite your creative purpose, right? We talked about the connection between pain and purpose and creative purpose. We talked about powering your creativity through creative purpose. So the question here again is, how do you reignite this creative purpose? Well, I'll give you three things. Number one, think about what energizes you. And I'm sure many of you have heard about this. And if you followed me here on, whether it's here on this platform, on YouTube, or on Instagram or any other social media platform, I continuously talk about how to use your energy in order to feel your way towards what is right for you. And so think about whatever it is that energizes you and make a list. It could be family, it could be food, it could be analysis, it could be sitting and meditating, it could be reading. What gives you energy? Because these are the things that you want to focus and take a list of and narrow it down to three things. I like that. Choosing. Absolutely. Everything is a choice. And so narrow it down to three things that you want to, that you choose to place yourself in. Three energies that you choose to place yourself in. What are those three things that you choose to place yourself in so that you can produce the feeling that you need in order to be successful in life? Because no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish that is a tangible outcome in this life, it's all tied to a feeling. You either want to feel confident, or you want to feel loved, or you want to feel like you've achieved some goal, or you want to feel accepted. All of those things that are external really lead back to the internal feeling that you want to create for yourself. And so start with the feeling, because when you start with the feeling, it'll be an innate thing that you're creating inside yourself. I'm sure many of you have heard about, the one of the universal laws, where the concept is about as above, so below, as within, so without. Your inside matches your outside. And so you want to be thinking about how you want to feel so that your outside matches how you want to feel. And it's constant work. Everything that and I can't tell you how many times I'll encounter things that give me internal dissonance, things that don't make me feel good. And I have to question myself, am I supposed to be here? What is this telling me about myself? What is this telling me about how I'm supposed to be being in order to produce the life that I want for myself? And so again, first point, think about what energizes you. Second thing, think about the most important problem you want to solve. And it doesn't have to be, for me, it's a problem that I've not only seen in myself, but I've also seen in the world. But think about the problem that you want to solve. It could be a theme that you've seen come up in your life that you are uniquely positioned to solve. Think about the things that just make you frustrated. It could be something political. It could be something that you're seeing, the abuse of children, or the abuse of the elderly, or people who don't understand math, or people who struggle with technology, or it could be your own struggle with technology. It could be your financial situation and the fact that you want to solve the problem of housing insecurity or food insecurity. think about the problem that you most want to solve and ask yourself, what would create the most positive transformation in your life if you were to solve it? Because when you think about there are so many problems, which means there's so many opportunities for creativity, and you are uniquely positioned to solve them using your gifts. One example, established that I was thinking about establishing a stronger spiritual connection with God. A lot of times we're so consumed with the external attainment of things that we forget that spiritual aspect of ourselves, that we are living spirits, that we are spirits in these physical bodies. And that is a highly admirable goal, or a highly admirable problem that you want to solve, which could be a spiritual one of gaining a higher spiritual connection through God. And it could be through a multitude of things. It could be through the relationship that you choose to get in, and finding that partner that's going to sharpen you spiritually. That's a whole other discussion, because as many of you may know, one of the most important things that you can do is to choose that person, that partner in your life that is meant to sharpen you, the person that you're choosing to help you sharpen yourself mentally, spiritually, and physically in this life. The next thing that can help you in your journey of reigniting your creative purpose is making space for exploring your creativity. I actually love this one the most. Developing a personal space where you can think through that meaning that you are choosing to give to your experience is extremely important. Many of us can't get to purpose because we're in the wrong environment. We're not in an environment that is conducive for us to even begin to think about those things, because we're around the noise of people who would tell us that we can't be as great as we know we are. You are great. You have greatness within you, but you have to place yourself around people, places, and things that allow you to align with that purpose. Because when you have too much noise, it could be noise online, it could be noise in your personal life, it could be noise in your family, it could be noise at work. When you are not in the environment that you need to be in, it is challenging for you to create with purpose. It's not impossible, but it is challenging. And so that comes with you establishing what? Boundaries. And honestly, it's easy to establish boundaries. It's hard to enforce them. You can say all day, well, I don't accept this, and I won't do this, and I don't like this. But the hard part is enforcing them. The hard part is having those hard conversations that you need to have in order to create that space. So whether or not it's at home, maybe your house and your home life isn't such that you can really create that space, but you might be able to say, hey, I'm going to step out for an hour to put myself in the space that I need to be in order to meditate, in order to think, in order to read, in order to do whatever I need to do. I'm going to take that 15-minute break. I'm going to do whatever it is I need to do in order to create the space. I'm going to ensure that the spaces I choose to live in are clean, are organized, are conducive for me to think. Because when you're around clutter, again, as I say, as above, so below, as within, so without. And so if you put yourself around clutter, what do you think is happening internally? You're scatterbrained. Many people are operating like this and don't really recognize it. And so creating and making that space to explore your creativity, and you don't need to be super rich to do it. You don't need to be super rich to do it. You just have to have that inner drive and that inner desire to create the space. And so the question that I'll pose is, what's one small thing that you can do this week to reconnect with your purpose? I've given some examples of things that you can do. I've given you 3 things that you can do to reignite your creative purpose. But what's one small thing that you can do this week in order to reconnect with your purpose? Because the takeaway that I'll leave you with here is this: you've got to work at your purpose, you've got to work at your creativity. You will have your ups, you will have your downs, but you always want to make sure that even in your downs, you're still swinging up higher than you were when you were up. The pendulum might go down, but it's going to go up higher than it was before. And so, with that, I'll stop here and I will see if there are any questions. What questions do you have? What questions would you like to explore around creative purpose? And I would say, you know, this is a hard one because not everyone knows what to ask. Not everyone knows what questions to ask around creative purpose. But one question that I get a lot is, oh, how do I find you? So you can either go to the link on my page, on my YouTube page in the About section, Only One Donnie TV. You can find me at Only One Donnie on Instagram. You can also find me at Only One Donnie on LinkedIn. And those are some of the ways that you can find me, or you can email me at my company, www.thedonatellogroup.com. And so the question that I see here is, how do you find your purpose? So that's a really great question. And I did a video not too long ago that talked and walked through the steps of one way of finding your purpose. And I will post that link actually in the description for this video. But how do you find your purpose in general? Finding purpose comes through exploration. Finding purpose comes through experimenting with life and understanding how you feel when you experience certain things. One technique that I've applied and I've helped others to apply is to do, as I've said earlier, and to think about the situations that energize you. Think about who you were around. Think about what you were doing. Think about when it was. What was it during the day? Was it during the night? Think about all of the intricacies where it was. Was it in your home? Was it out at a bar? And as you are really thinking about all of the things that energize you, it could be that you string all these things together and you say, well, I was with friends and I was in a professional setting and I was helping people to discover, how to do their finances because they had questions. And think about those situations. And then think about your gifts, right? What gifts do you have that you used in those situations? As I mentioned earlier, were you helping someone with their finance? Were you helping someone to raise their child or to think about how to be a better father or a better mother? And those things can lead you to what could be your purpose, because it could be for It could show up in different ways, but the through line is really going to be the same. And I particularly think that most of our purpose is rooted in helping others. Yes, it is, we want to feel happy. I saw a post about someone saying, my purpose is just be happy. But doing what? Doing what? Or being what? And so finding your purpose is going to come with experimentation because you're going to have to try different things to see how you feel. And I think that's the beauty of education, right? Through in our childhood, we're able to always helping others. Yes, I like that point. In our childhood, we are forced into these situations as children to learn how to read, write, how to engage with others, how to we color, we go to the gym, and with PE, we do science, we are in social studies, we're in all these different uh, classes in order to experiment. And as we go through our lives, if we go to perhaps middle school, then high school and college, if you choose to do that, you experience things that expose you to the parts of you that you either want to heal in yourself or you want to heal in other people. And I think it is through sitting in solitude and examining those things, you'll begin to understand, well, I really am driven and energized by helping people in this way. Or I really love chemistry. And I think I would be great at producing some kind of gene therapy solution. It could be a number of things. And it's not just all about business, because you could be someone who really loves family. And so part of your purpose is to build a family. The job or the business that you've built is just the vehicle that affords you the ability to get physical things in this life, but your core purpose really might be rooted in family, if that's what you choose to do. As I mentioned earlier, someone else could have a spiritual purpose where they want to really heighten their spirituality while they're here in this physical plane. And so there's so many different ways to explore your purpose. But in summary, I would say this. I'll try to make it more succinct. I'll say list out all of the different things where your energy was high: the who, the what, the when, the where. And I want you to pull out the key words that jumped out for you in those instances. You were, at a music concert, or you were singing in the bathroom, you were sitting in solitude painting. And I want you to put those words together in a sentence. My purpose is to, and play around with it and just try different things and allow your feelings and your intuition to guide you. So I could go on and on about that topic, actually diving into each of the different lanes a lot deeper. But again, I have a video on that. I'll post it in the link, and I really appreciate that question. Any other questions on the chat before we close, because we are nearing the end? Okay. So the last thing I'll leave you with is, asking powerful questions can produce powerful results in your life. And so and it doesn't have to be the best question. It just has to be a question that is going to be powerful for you. There really is no such thing as a dumb question. And so get used to learning how to ask powerful questions so that you can produce powerful results in your life. And so in closing, what I will say is that I want you to remember that creative purpose is the meaning that you give to the unique way that you use your gifts to bring your thoughts into form. So spend time thinking about what you choose to create in this life. Think about the things that energize you. Think about your gifts and how you want to use them. You might want to use them all. You might want to use one. But think about the gifts that you have. You have gifts. Everybody does. And execute on them. And so if you gain anything from today's talk, I want you to subscribe here on YouTube, share this link with anyone that you think might benefit from this talk. And if you'd like to chat it up on Instagram in a more face-to-face venue, in an open session, you can shoot me a note and I'll get back to you with the details on how to get signed up for that. Or you can also go to the link on my YouTube to sign up on the forum there. And just message me directly if you want to work with me. Again, my information is on the homepage. And so I'll leave you with this. Make sure that, we're building community here. This isn't just about, me getting up and talking to you all. This is about us growing together. And so if you're ever wanting to share a perspective or an idea, or you have something that you think might be beneficial for the discussion, please feel free to add it. And with that, thank you for joining our first episode of Pain to Purpose Live. And I can't wait to see you in the next one. Peace.